Tundra Dip Book Club podcast with Daina and Bonnie. Whoop whoop!
Hello.
Here we are. We are on our second week of Fourth Wing this week, but we are also going to do a little bit of a closeout of our previous month's book club book, which was Fall of Ruin and Wrath, because as Dana reminded me, we filmed these a little bit ahead of time, so here we are at the end of the month for that book, and so we're going to do some closeout of that. So we decided to do a kind of a soft launch last month of the Fable app. So Fable is an app where we can put a book or a TV show or pretty much those two things on a club, essentially. And then it gives you the chapter breakdown. You can also read it on that app and kind of mark and highlight things and write comments for people to interact with you as you read as well. But also there's a chapter breakdown where you can leave your comments as you're reading, like, oh my god, I can't believe what just happened in that last chapter. And then as you're reading, you can go through other people's comments and not have any spoilers because everything's hidden until you get to that chapter that you want to click on. So, anything else that you like about Fable that you want to add, Dana?
I think you really just hit the nail on the head with all of them. I had a lot of fun this past month just kind of going through as like my notifications would come in and interacting with everybody and everyone's theories on what was happening, because that's one of the beautiful things about reading, I find, is everyone can take things differently. And reading some things that like some people caught on to, or people who have read like other books that the series was connected to, like, wait, this all now makes sense. Especially in the little reflection area where we all just got very mad at JLA for not having book 2 out yet.
We all can all commiserate together. We can just, revel in our despair. So we were going to do a little bit of a closeout and talk about some of our favorite comments that people put. And then we are going to formally switch over Fable to Fourth Wing today. So, because we're going to start Fourth Wing today, I think, right?
Yeah, tomorrow? September 1st.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, who cares?
So, this is the month that we are kind of doing more so a hard launch. This is where we're going to be doing the discussion of the book. It is not probably going to be happening on the Tundra Dip pages. This and if you want to comment on podcasts. So this is a really nice place for it. There's no reason to make it work anywhere else because it doesn't work well anywhere else. So this is going to be the place.
You can also leave your rating for the book at the very end and like your own little personal review, which I also find fun. Mm-hmm. I like to see what people rate things.
Me too, actually. Especially that lets us know if we're on the right track for books that we're picking for you guys. So, well, Dana, what are some of your favorite comments?
So I had a lot of fun. I think there was a lot of engagement around the time that they were going through and we were finding out more about like creation and who Thorn was. There were quite a few standouts where some people were pointing out like, well, is she highborn? And was she created? Was she like his sister figure in the way creation works? Which I was like, I don't think so. That does not sit well with me.
I have that actual comment in front of me. It says, okay. He keeps asking what life was like when she grew up, if she ever knew her parents, thought about them, etc. Now he had a sister. There's just no way it's her, right? I don't want them to be siblings. They have to be lovers.
And they totally are lovers, though.
Yes.
Unless this is enemies to lovers back to enemies.
Now that I'm thinking about those points, like, I mean, she doesn't remember how she was born. She doesn't remember her parents. All she remembers is, like, popping up in the priority, basically. I mean, it could be that.
I can't afford to go down this rabbit hole again.
I don't think JLA would be, like, do, like, an oopsie incest and try to pass it off as, like, well, they're angels, it doesn't matter.
I also think it raises a point on they're not technically related in that sense, and I don't think any highborn is relative in that sense.
True.
You know what I mean?
He doesn't have siblings. I mean,
So
he
it's
says he
just
has
the fact that they
brothers.
were created at the same time.
Look at us just making red flags just green.
That's what fantasy and dark romance does to us. Somebody else had mentioned at one point that I have a large feeling that we will love Bastion, or well, at least I will. I'm hoping he plays more into the story. Bastion gives Cassian energy, and I live on that hill. That is why we love him.
Yes, I think his, what did I call them? His merry men. I think they will come back.
Yes.
Absolutely, at some point. I also liked that the whole time I was kind of trying to think about where this book is in relation to From Blood and Ash, because I know they're supposed to connect, and so somebody posted in there a quote on where she thought it might fit in relation to From Blood and Ash, and because it was a excerpt out of one of those books, and so that was super helpful for me. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So that was super nice too, because it's just like more eyes on something, than you have.
Yeah. Everyone falls down the rabbit hole with us.
Yeah. I also like how Donna adopted our I'm on Christian watch, I'm on Mildred watch, I'm on Claude watch. I love that. That makes me happy.
Listen, I need more eyes to be on watch with me because there's too much happening. There's only so much that we can watch on our own.
Yes. And a bunch of people, saying, oh my gosh, she left us on a hook.
All of this to say, if you haven't joined the Tundra Dip Book Club on Fable yet, this is your sign to go do so. I believe it's pinned on the Facebook page. If not, we'll probably repost it, let's be honest.
Yeah, I'll try to make sure I'm posting with the link in here in the next little while. So it's a fun time. It's nice to nobody's ever, as an adult, nobody's ever doing the exact same thing that you're doing at the same time, right? Except for sometimes me and Dana are reading the same things at the same time, but that's pretty rare. And so it's really, really nice that once you do get to reading the same thing that like your friend was reading, that you can just open it up and read their thoughts that they had.
This is like all of my text messages to Bonnie and Rachel, except they're probably not reading the same book as me, and I'm trying not to spoil it.
Right, and here you can spoil it because if they open it, that's their own thing.
That's on them.
So please join Fable with us. I also, in the month, in fall, am doing a Gilmore Girls rewatch. That's a different club. That one's just for funsies. It's kind of a cool app to be able to do that kind of stuff. So join Fable and see if you like it with us. And it'll help tag along with the podcast. We'll try to interact a bit more with Fable on the podcast too. So without further ado, Fourth Wing!
Woo woo!
This is a very exciting week for Fourth Wing. Arguably the most exciting week of the entire podcast.
I think this is the most exciting week, and I think the absolute last end of this book is going to be the one I skip through half the book for. Yeah. But I think you're on the same page as me.
Yeah. So, we're excited. Dana's gonna do a recap for you, and then we're just gonna dive in there. Oh, a reminder, for those of you who have read Iron Flame, we are holding back all of our Iron Flame comments, and as well as our knowledge of further chapters in this book until the very end. If you want to wait until the very end of the podcast, we will make it very clear when we are about to switch to a spoiler classified edition of our podcast where we go into talking about the rest of the book, as well as Iron Flame and our theories around that.
Ta-da! Without further ado, we are jumping into chapters 10 through 20, which sees us learning about something called a gauntlet. And the gauntlet is there to represent all the ways in which a rider or a cadet in the rider's quadrant needs to learn how to ride their dragon, needs to prove that they can stay on their dragon, needs to prove that they can mount their dragon. Mount being the operative word here. But after surviving the gauntlet by the skin of her teeth, Violet faces the next deadly challenge, Threshing, where cadets must bond with a dragon or die trying. The stakes couldn't be higher, and Violet's already feeling the pressure. Her frail body and sharp mind have gotten her this far, but threshing is a whole new level of danger. When the day finally arrives, chaos erupts as dragons descend, picking off unworthy cadets left and right. Violet's strategy is simple: survive. But just when it seems like she's about to be outmatched, a massive and legendary dragon chooses her as his rider. This bond is a game changer, marking her as someone to be reckoned with if she can survive the aftermath. But bonding with him isn't just about survival, it's about power. Violet's connection with him is deeper and more intense than anything she's ever known, and it gives her an edge in a world that's constantly trying to break her. However, being bonded to such a formidable dragon also paints a target on her back, especially from those who resent her for seemingly defying the odds. Yeah. With Threshing behind her, she's no longer just fighting to survive. She's starting to realize she has the potential to be a true force in Basgiath. But with new power comes new enemies, and Violet's about to find out just how far some will go to see her fail. Or see her dead. Let's be honest.
Yes, see her dead. Can I just say, this just came to my mind as you were talking about bonding. Rebecca Yarros was just saying, just in an interview, I just saw it recently, that her editor didn't want her to, they were in an argument about whether or not it would be Tern or Andarna, and they wanted her to bond a small, weak dragon when she was writing it. But she thought that it was too much like Throne of Glass, which I don't know if you've read, but there's Abraxos and whatever in there. Anyway, so she wanted, because Violet was like bodily weak and all that, she wanted her to bond like a big, tough dragon. So they compromised with both.
I love that. I was about to say something and then remember that we're not in the redacted part of the podcast yet. So,
Yeah.
I will circle back on the Rebecca Yarros interviews that I've heard recently.
Oh, she is just playing with it. Can I just tell you that right now? She is just playing with it.
But she does it on purpose, because there's a certain part when, like, she was on tour for Iron Flame where she's like, oh, well, I'll just, like, give you a snippet of a line I just wrote. And she chose that line for violence, and not violence as in Violet's nickname. Mm-hmm. Violence as if she wanted to see the world burn.
She enjoys these interviews, I think, versus I feel like when I see SJM do them, she's annoyed by them. Like, she doesn't want to answer any questions. She just wants to, like, keep everything to herself. Versus, yeah. I think Rebecca Yarros, like, plans out what she wants to tell everybody.
She's stoking the flames, and I will say just really briefly, I was scrolling through Instagram the other day and actually came across a post that JLA posted, which is an image I've sent you of a, like, swatches of gray, like a paint chip almost, with character names underneath them, describing how morally gray these characters are. Xaden Ryerson being at the very bottom. Oh. And Rebecca's comment was just like, oh my god, what is this? I need it. And out of, like, all those characters, tell me why Rysand was like the second lightest morally gray character. I have a bone to pick with that. But Xaden Ryerson was like morally corrupt on this scale.
Has she read something that we haven't read yet?
Has the person who made this viral product got a copy of Onyx Storm before Onyx Storm was even released? Because I've known about this bookmark for a while.
That's what I want to say. Because, I mean, I definitely know more morally gray.
I don't think he's... Anyways.
Let's get into it. Okay, so we are getting into it right away with the gauntlet. So we have a quote from Brennan immediately. Don't underestimate the challenge of the gauntlet, Mira. It's designed to test your balance, strength, and agility. The times don't matter for shit, only that you make it to the top. Reach for the ropes when you have to. Coming in last is better than coming in dead. So we learned that you get, what is it, a 30-second penalty if you touch or if you use a rope?
For each rope you touch.
And the fastest times get to go into threshing first or something like
presentation. The fastest squad is the first in line for presentation, which presentation is just them literally walking down through the valley or down like a dirt road is what I picture in my head, with
like
all the dragons just staring at them.
Yeah. They're like a little sushi bar where they just go around and then they come back.
Yeah.
So they have to make it up this gauntlet to be able to get to the flight field or presentation field. Both?
Both.
Oh my gosh, I'm terrible. Okay, yeah.
I think it's more so flight field is more in Basgiath. They have to be able to make it up this gauntlet in order to get to where like presentation is, and it's very much like you either make it to the top of this gauntlet or you die. Like there's no steps down like there is during training. Like the final form, like if you don't scale the cliff or whatever it is they call it, you fall. You die trying, literally.
Yeah. And we learn, I mean, it's difficult. Everybody struggles with it, and somebody dies right off the bat.
Yeah, so we're going through the first form of it, and I'm trying to find her name because I know I definitely wrote down the wrong name in my notes.
Tynan?
No, Tynan is not the one who dies at Gauntlet. But Tynan, we do learn, is Jack fucking Barlow's best friend, even though he's in the same squad. I want to say it starts with an O or maybe an A. Aurelie?
Oh, yeah. I'm just guessing.
It might be Aurelie. But she is also, like, the most prepared person as you're reading it.
Aurelie,
there we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That was actually, like, a sad one.
She is, hands down, like, one of the most prepared cadets going through this gauntlet. She is also the first death in their squad.
Mm-hmm. And Sawyer already has done this, right?
Yes.
Sawyer. So he like makes it up, no problem, and shows them how to do it.
Yeah, he like shows it off, and then Aurelie, I want to say Aurelie had like a sibling or something that also went through the Riders Quadrant. I could be wrong. But she's making it through, and she's right in front of Violet in their lineup. And she's almost coaching Violet through, like, okay, now go do this, now go do this. Almost like, hey, just go straight for it, don't even stop, don't think about it. Or, hey, there's a rope, grab the rope. And then we see her as she's basically trying to help Violet almost. We see her die. And we see Violet also rushing to try and save her and not being able to do so. I have the quote I want to say.
Go ahead.
Go Violet, she shouts. Here I come. Her footwork is more agile than mine as she springs from spinning post to post. A roar sounds from overhead. and I jerk my gaze up in time to see the underbelly of a green dagger tail as it flies directly over us, headed back to the Vale. I'm never going to get used to that. Orly cries out, and my head snaps towards hers, just in time to see her wobble and slip on the 5th post. The air freezes in my lungs as she careens forward, her belly hitting the next to last spinning log as if in slow motion. Orally, I scream, lunging for her, my fingertips skimming the 7th post. Our eyes meet, shock and terror filling her wide black eyes as the post rolls her away from me and she falls halfway down the cliff.
Sad day.
Mm-hmm.
Violet also gives us some very good information about feathertails.
She does.
Feathertail dragons are the breed we know the least about. This is because feathertails reportedly abhor violence and are not suitable for bonding. I kind of disagree with the abhor violence part. Anyway, though this scholar cannot be certain, as one has never left the Vale within my lifetime.
I feel like that abhorred violence quote needs to be saved for the redacted section of this podcast.
That's what I'm trying to say. Then she says orange dragons, which I also want to call attention to orange dragons in general. Just trust me, it's for your own good. Orange dragons, coming in various shades of apricot to carrot, are the most unpredictable of dragon kind and therefore always a risk.
Again, we'll circle back to that later.
And that's very interesting. And it's very interesting that those are just the only 2 that she spoke about.
Yes, and this is something I personally want to circle back to later, especially orange dragons, and comments that I know Rebecca Yarros has made. Because doesn't Dain have an orange dragon?
No.
No? Okay. No, Brendan has an
does.
orange dragon. Brendan had an orange dragon. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah.
Had.
Yeah.
He is no longer in the land of the living. Yikes.
Yeah. Brennan had one. Okay, so hold on. So orange dragon. Yeah, I got you. And then feathertail. I'm just writing down.
And the reason why feathertails are being brought up is because there is rumors. No, I'm skipping ahead. Why are feathertails being brought up right now?
It's okay. We can say later on.
Okay.
There's a feathertail at the presentation.
There was rumors that there was one. All those fun things. But we also learned that this part of training, this part of becoming a rider, is what sees one of the second most deaths.
And of course,
first year.
guess who's really worried about it? Fucking Dain. We go right into Dain being worried about this, and I have literally highlighted, you don't want me to go with you, and then he asks, palming my neck. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So she's burning Arlie's stuff. That's a thing that she has to do. She takes upon herself because her parents have decided not to come and do it.
Well, I would also like to point out that as he's palming her neck, he then immediately says, because she goes, I know where the burn pit is, and he mutters a curse, I should have been there. This man just read her mind. You're not going to convince me otherwise. He just saw her memories. He just watched through Violet's eyes her watching Orly die. Because why else would he have made that comment?
Yep, for sure. For sure. That's 100% exactly what happened. And so he immediately is he's just constantly in protection mode, and it's just driving me fucking crazy. That is not what we need to be happening right now. But it's funny because so she decides to kind of go down and do that and to do the fire. And then we run into Xaden again, and her scalp prickles. 10 feet away. She goes, shit.
Interesting.
He knows I'm here. She's, for some reason, she, like, when her scalp prickles, she knows that Xaden is aware of her presence. That is the, like, it follows every single time.
It tracks. But it's also well past curfew, as not only Xaden is strolling up to basically where she is, but we also see Garrick and Bodhi. We see Garrick and Bodhi as well. And why would there be 3 Mark ones out past curfew?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Especially when they're not allowed to gather in, 3 or more. I'm sure that it's fine. It's probably just practice, Daina.
It's nothing suspicious at all.
It's nothing.
And Xaden makes sure to send Garrick and Bodhi away before confronting Violet.
I have a quote from him. Killing you wouldn't be any trouble, Violence. It's leaving you alive that seems to cause the majority of my trouble.
That's really unfortunate.
And then she says, sorry to be a hassle.
Oh. But it's also, sorry to be the hassle, but also, I have this highlighted because it's one of my favorite moments of theirs pre-threshing, which is, am I affecting your schedule, Violence? There's a defiant smirk on those lips. I just need to know what my chances are here. My hands curl into fists. The ass has the nerve to smile. That's the oddest way I've ever been hit on. Not my chances with you, you conceited prick. Conceited prick is a color name. Fuck this. Fuck all this. I move past him, but he catches my wrist, his grip tight, light, but his hold firm. Chances at what? And then she kind of lets in, I can't make it up the final fucking cliff thing for the gauntlet. I'm gonna die. And
he says, you lose your squad mate, you can't quite get up the chimney, and then you give up. I'm starting to see it's not a flattering picture, but if you want to run off to the squad quadrant, and she gasps, fear punching a hole in my stomach. How do you know about that? And he goes, I knows everything.
The shadows.
Shadows, remember?
He's a shadow wielder. I can talk. But, and then they kind of go back and forth of she would reward you if you told her about Dane's plan. He goes, yeah, and she would reward you for telling her about my little tutoring session. And she's like, well, I'm not going to tell. And he goes, well, neither am I. Hope is a fickle, dangerous thing. It steals your focus and aims it toward the possibilities instead of keeping it where it belongs, on the probabilities. Which is also something that's really interesting that he kind of pulled out, because that is something that Hope was almost something Violet lost until she crossed that parapet. And then she kind of saw wait, maybe I do have this chance.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm looking through stuff. I don't have a whole lot of things until she starts going up the gauntlet for the real thing. Other than the fact
I think
the general consensus that, Dain doesn't want her to do it.
Fuck Dainatos. I think the last thing I will have pointed out is just what Xaden tells her towards the end, which was, maybe if you stop sulking in your self-pity, you see that you have everything you need to scale the gauntlet. And then it's, so if you want to quit, then please spare me the temptation and fucking quit. Oh, no. I'm going to go into why I don't think Xaden's the most morally gray because of this line. People die, he said slowly, his jaw ticking before he drags in a deep breath. It's going to happen over and over again. It's the nature of what happens here. What makes you a writer is what you do after people die. You want to know why you're still alive? Because you're the scale I currently judge myself against every night. Every day I let you live, I get to convince myself that there's still a part of me that's a decent person. So if you want to quit, then please spare me the temptation and fucking quit. But if you want to do something, then do it. Ooh. So we get that sense right there that, like, he's not going to kill her because he wants to prove that he's better than his father was. Mm-hmm. He is a better person. Or at least he claims to be a better person.
Mm-hmm. And at first, when I read that and when you read it out loud, I remember thinking, oh, that's sweet. She's the scale that he like, whatever, judges himself against. And then he says, for not killing you every day. And I'm like, oh.
I judge myself against you because I haven't killed you yet.
Like, oh, okay. Oh, well, I'll take that too as a compliment. Okay, all right. You're letting me live? Okay.
Nobody said he was perfect.
Okay, Daddy. It's fine.
Okay. Shadow Daddy, obviously. And then she goes, I'm too short to span the distance. And then this is the key point, and I feel like this quote will reign through the rest of this book. The right way isn't the only way. Figure it out.
You're right. Exactly. Exactly. And honestly, like, it's interesting because, so Violet so quickly went from being a scribe, which would be like a rule follower, right? It's interesting that she's not a rule follower like Dain. That's very fascinating to me.
She's described, and I don't know when in the book she's described as this, but she is described as having a scribe's mind but a writer's heart. Something like that. And I don't think I've ever pictured her as being like a direct rule follower, like as staunch as Dain is, but always somebody who's like, she's very, well, especially after the whole poisoning incidents, let's be honest, but she's very, very smart. She knows her shit, and she knows how to use it to her advantage. And even Xaden has now noticed that. He can see, like, she knows what to do and what to say, and loopholes exist for a reason. If they didn't exist, they would have written their rules better.
Well, and I guess when you're already at a disadvantage, you're kind of like, meh, whatever.
Who cares?
I'm already at a disadvantage. I'm going to say fuck it.
What are you going to do? Kill me?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see you try.
Yes. So there's one quote right before Dain's trying to convince her to, there's maybe a couple quotes to not do this. And she says she cannot leave right now. And she says his hand squeezes mine, so he's touching her. And she says, I'm a rider. Or he says, I'm a rider. And she goes, well, maybe I am too, I whisper, as a light appears ahead. I didn't believe it before, not when I couldn't believe because my mother wouldn't let me, but now I have a choice, and I choose to stay. And then he says, don't be, and then he cuts himself off but drops his hand. I don't want to bury you, Vi. Ugh. Rude. And then he says, what changed between the parapet and now? And she says, me.
Woo! Also, just the character development of that line. Not because my mother chose for me, but because I want to be. Mm-hmm. Girl, it's only been a couple of chapters and look at how much you've grown.
Oh, sweet baby violence.
Honestly, really taking her nickname. She's really saying, you know what, you're going to call me violence. I'm going to give you a reason to call me violence.
Yep. So, the one, okay, so do you understand, picture-wise, how she uses the rope to get up the chimney? Because I do not understand.
Okay, I need to reread that section again because I see the dagger. I don't see the rope.
Yeah, so she says, okay, it's right here. It's heavy as hell and it protests to stretch, but I managed to get the bottom portion of the rope into the chimney structure, pulling the rope as tight as it can go. I plant one foot on the side of the shaft and give the rope a tug and send up a prayer. Okay, so it would make sense to me if she like threw a rope over the chimney, right? And it went down into the chimney and then she used that in the chimney to like climb up it, right? But it sounds like she's pulling it under.
I grab one of the ropes and drag it horizontally across the surface of the cliff, sending pebbles into a free fall. Okay, I see it as she's pulling it horizontally across the surface. Is she kind of using it as a, like, oh, I don't know what the proper term is. In a way, I think it is kind of, that, like, over, not under, where she's using it to help her scale it as much as possible.
It's just logistically, I don't understand it in my brain. That's one of those that I don't understand. And I honestly... Go ahead.
Okay. So... I see it, and this is very cartoon-like because I don't think this is how this would happen in real life, but her almost like, here is cliff, right? Here is chimney. Here is Violet, like, walking up, holding the rope. That's how it happens in my head.
Yeah, I saw even, like, a TikTok video of the gauntlet, and I was gonna just, like, show it or whatever.
Yes.
Because that helped me, like, understand, really. It's just kind of like an obstacle course.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, sorry for our Spotify listeners or whatever, but if you're on YouTube, that's kind of what's going on. So they kind of can go across, and then there's this wheel here. I think in some of them I've seen the wheel as vertical as well. And there's the balls you have to get past, and then the logs that move, and then the chimney, which she's too short for. So she's too short to actually, like, get up this very well. So this is where we're talking about she used a rope somehow, and it sounds like she put the rope in the bottom. That's why we're confused. And then this is the ramp.
I feel like the ropes are, like, free hanging somewhere, and it's just she's grabbing it from wherever it's free hanging and pulling it along to come assist her now towards the chimney. Because it doesn't last her for long.
Maybe you can fall down the chimney, and maybe there's a rope that runs down the chimney. And there's a 30-second penalty for grabbing. I don't know. I know, but it says she drags it over. I don't know. I don't get it.
There's something with it that all I know is that the rope is part of the course, because using the rope is not what she gets in trouble for.
No.
She gets in trouble for using
yeah,
and uses her dagger. Mm-hmm. A dagger which crossed the parapet with her, and that is very important.
And not just like it crossed the parapet like on her person, like not
on
even just
her.
Like in her rucksack, like on her like person.
It was on her physically.
Mm-hmm. And so she uses that. She runs up that almost like you would like think of it as like a skateboard ramp, you know. She runs up that wall, and once she gets to the most vertical point, she takes her dagger and she boom puts it into the wood, and uses that to hoist herself up onto the flight field. So immediately, remember this name, immediately, what is it, Amber?
Amber Mavis.
Amber Mavis says, cheating! The cheater clearly used foreign materials not once but twice. Then she says, a rider may only bring into the quadrant the items they can carry. I start. Are you quoting the codex to me? Because Amber is a major codex follower. She's Dane's little sneaky link last year, and they're like all, you know, horny together with the codex. And they shall not be separated from those items, no matter what they may be, I continue. For once carried across the parapet, they are considered to be part of their person. Article 3, Section 6, Addendum B. Her blue eyes flared wide, and I glanced at her. That addendum was written to make thievery an executional offense. So it was made to solve a completely different issue, has nothing to do with this, but Violet is redirecting this rule to fit her needs.
The mind of a scribe.
Yeah. And Xaden is the one who gets to rule on it, because he's the wing leader.
For her. He is her wing leader. And honestly, the mind of a scribe, because she even says, but in doing so, it gave any item carried across the parapet the status of being part of the rider. This isn't a challenge blade. It's the one I carried across, and therefore considered part of myself. And Xaden's sitting there going, fuck yeah, because she has you, Amber. On a technicality, she still has you. You think like a scribe, Amber barks at her. It's intended as an insult, but I just nod. I know. Because at this point, thinking like a scribe should not be an insult when she just did what she did.
Well, and I would argue that Amber doesn't even think like a rider. She follows the rules too much to be a rider. Like I don't think a true rider really is like that into the codex. Like if you think about Mira and how Mira's like kind of like, you know, fuck the rules a little bit. I don't know, I just don't see it.
I think she sees Violet as a threat. Specifically a threat to whatever her relationship is with Dain.
There is that.
And she's trying to get rid of her.
There is that. Well, yeah. Yeah, she is.
Ooh, more on that later.
So I erased the count, but there's 169 of them by the time the next morning is. So
Love a good old
I think
69.
it was like
Anyways.
I think it was like 300 and like something when they started. I'll go find it.
Sure.
There's a lot.
But we're down to like half. So even with Violet's penalty, as Bonnie continues to look for the original number, their squad ends up placing 11th out of the 36 squads for presentation. And it's time to see the dragons.
Da-da-da.
But first, a little shout out to the fastest up the gauntlet was Liam Mari.
Of course he was.
I love Liam.
Baby Liam.
Earning himself the gauntlet patch. So that's a whole other thing that's like going on simultaneously is like I
Like
I
Boy
picture
Scouts?
them like Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts and girls just collecting all their little patches and badges.
Is there a campfire one? Like, is that gonna happen?
That would be hilarious if there was.
So yeah, now they get to walk in front of the dragons, and this is actually like, okay. Like giving you a little bit of a picture of what dragons actually, like size-wise, averaging 25 feet tall, they are in a formation of their own, lined up several feet back from the path. Close enough to pass judgment on us as we walk by. Also, they tell them to space themselves out. because if one of the dragons just decides that one of them isn't worthy, they're just going to blast them with fire, and they're not going to worry about cross damage. So you're going to want to space yourselves out so you don't get caught in the fire.
Space yourselves out, like social distance spacing, but also talk to each other and seem personable. Like, don't look like you're too good for everybody else.
Also, dude, when she says talk to each other, and then who is it? Luca starts just being a bitch.
Oh,
like, that's
my
not what we
God.
meant. Like, why do some of the writers think that being an asshole is gonna get them in good with the dragons? This is what I don't understand.
I don't know. I think that some of them are just like, well, we're just showing how ruthless we can be. Like, no.
And
Maybe you'll bond an orange dragon.
This is where we're getting those rumors, right? It's just that they said there's a feather tail. A feather tail? And then it says, relax, feather tails don't bond. I can't even remember the last time one has been seen outside the veil. People keep saying they don't even leave the veil. Ever.
But also, who the hell would ever want to bond a feather tail? Who the fuck are you, Tynan? Oh.
I can't even believe that anyone would see fit, any of the kids would see fit to insult a dragon, no matter what kind of dragon it is.
Exactly.
I'm shocked that anyone would be like, okay.
Because, again, nobody really knows anything about feather tails either. Feather tails are not a known species for the most part. Especially golden dragons. But that's one more dragon willing to bond than the day before. Mm-hmm. There was only 100, now there's 101, so shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
And walk your ass through this little presentation.
Yeah, and I don't know, they're talking about just like natural, like, or what do you call it, like small talk, Rhiannon and her kind of back and forth, and then the others are kind of butting in.
Is this where we talk about the fables?
But hold on, first we get to standing at the end of the line is a small golden dragon. Sunlight reflects off its scales and horns, and as it stands to its full height, flicking its feathered tail around the side of its body, the feather tail. Who the hell would bond that thing? Yeah. It's fucking yellow. Luca points right at the dragon. It's obviously too small to carry a rider in the battle, but it's not powerful enough to even be a real color. Maybe it's a mistake, Sawyer says quietly. Maybe it's a baby orange. It's fully grown, Rhiannon argues. There's no way other dragons would allow a baby to bond. No human has ever seen a baby. It's a mistake, all right. Tynan looks at the golden one and scoffs. You should totally bond it, Sorengale. You're both freakishly weak. It's a match made in heaven. So they're pretty like, everyone's pretty like, it's like a freak, which is interesting. Which I guess I kind of understand the thought of like, you do all this work, you stay alive, right? And then what happens if a dragon bonds you that can't even carry you? You're like, what the heck did I just do all of this for? Like, I guess I kind of understand that a little bit. But.
Well, and something to point out as part of this whole, like, oh, it's a freak thing. And she even makes this comment regards to the height of the golden feather tail. It's, at its fullest height, it's probably only a few feet taller than I am. Like a perfect miniature of the brown next to it. So Violet sits at like what, 5'3", if that.
Small.
The golden feather tail is only like maybe 7 feet tall. It is dwarfed in size compared to all of these other dragons.
And that's why somebody said maybe it's a baby, you know, like, because it's like, what the heck?
It's a baby. Maybe it's the baby.
So then, Rhys says, isn't this stressful enough without you insulting them? Which, that's what I was thinking. Like, let's not insult the dragons, kids. And then Violet says, Earth sinks, I need to use this quickly. I mean, it could be worse. We could be walking past a line of wyvern, right? Oh, please, Violet, don't give us one of your nervous babble story times, Lucas says sarcastically. Let me guess, wyvern are some elite squad of griffin riders created because of something we did in battle only you can manage to remember with your scribe brain. Then Ree says, you don't know what a wyvern is? She's surprised. But no one else knows what it is. They're like, what? It's just Ree.
Yeah, and so we learned that wyvern are basically dragons, but with 2 feet instead of 4. Yes, and venom. We also learn about venom, who can control the wyvern. But again, this is all being laughed off as, like, yeah, no, it's a fable. It's something like parents tell their kids at bedtime so that they behave. It's the boogeyman. There's not much more kind of going into them, which lines up with what we know so far, being that Violet had this book of fables passed down from her father.
I have a very important quote. I seriously asked, my dad used to read me one of those fables every night, I tell her, and I seriously asked him one time if my mom was going to turn into a venom because she could channel. And she says, did he tell you people supposedly only turn into venom if they channel directly from the source? He did, but it was after my mom had a really long night while we were stationed near the eastern border and her eyes were bloodshot red. So I freaked out and started shrieking.
Stay tuned for the redacted part of this podcast where I took her into that section. Bloodshot red eyes. Yep. So they're having fun. They're going over these stories. Yes, I am very much moving on from that point for all of our listeners, because there's not much more we can say without spoiling other things.
The green dragons start to approach Violet. Like, they are, like, moving out of formation, and they're just, like, enclosing on her.
Well, before the green dragons come over, somebody dies.
Oh, yeah.
Prior.
Sucks to suck.
But this is why they're told to, like, space out, because a red steps out of line and just boops, Prior's gone. The sense of sulfur and burned grass, burned something, fills my lungs. Yep. Anyways.
And she has to
Prior's
walk over
dead.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just have to...
Then immediately after that, that's a good setup for that, because then immediately after that, 2 green dragons just step out of formation and start going towards Violet. And she's like,
they
what?
surround her. Vree is freaking out, and they're just surrounding her. They're smelling her. And then she realizes, well, in her head, she's like, what the fuck's going on? Greens are the most reasonable. They're looking at her wound, her hand. And then it hits her like a freight train. You smell tiny. Don't you? So they're smelling this dragon scale armor, and they're like, why the fuck does this girl smell like a dragon? But this is also
dragon.
So a green dragon at that. But this is also something where you aren't supposed to, like, talk to other dragons. This is frowned upon typically, is that you don't approach other dragons, you don't talk to other dragons, especially if you're not bonded to a dragon. But here Violet is talking to, like, 2 green dragons about her sister's dragon Tiny. And they just leave her alone.
And she
They go back
explains
into their formation.
She explains what's up, and then they're like, all right, sweet. And then
Peace out.
Threshing!
Threshing.
It's threshing day. This is when This is like the turning point of the book.
Well,
if you weren't
also,
enjoying your time, this is where it starts to go.
right before Threshing, they do lose another member. Luca dies.
Thank God.
The dragons do smite Luca, and I love Riddick because in Violet's head she's going, "Please don't be Riddick, please don't be Riddick," and then you hear Riddick go, "Guess the dragons think she's insufferable too."
Mm-hmm.
And our squad is down to 6.
Yeah. Thank God.
Thank God.
We also bring back for Threshing the mantra of "I will not die today," which is interesting because she hasn't had that for a while. Mm-hmm. We haven't had that for a while where she's felt the need to say "I will not die today."
But October 1st is always Threshing. Mm-hmm. I love that.
And then Rhiannon asks if she has any ones that she's going to go to. It also sounds like they have cards of all the dragons that are willing to bond so that they can look at them. And she says, yes, I just don't feel connected to any of them.
It's also worth noting that we're down from 169 to 147. More and more are biting the dust. But yeah, Violet doesn't feel connected to any of them. Yeah. And at this point, she goes, at this point, Mira knew she wanted to seek out Tiny. And Rihanna looks at her like, well, you've memorized the cards, right? So, like, you know who's out there or what's out there. You're like, yeah. Dain tried talking me into a brown, which I find it very interesting that he was trying to get her to bond to brown dragon, given the fact that her mother is bonded to a brown dragon. Mm-hmm. But also, fuck Dainitos.
I feel like brown must be, like, the most safe dragon or something. Like, that's gotta be, like, the most mild or something.
Something. Anything but who she does bond to.
Yeah. So, she basically is starting, and she's just kind of running around, and it's basically, like, wasting time. She's kind of approaching some dragons, and nothing's happening. And then she sees a flash out of the corner of her eye.
She does. A flash of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And not only does she see this flash of gold, but she knows that people are hunting this dragon as well.
Yep, she hears people say, "We're gonna go kill this dragon," basically. Rude.
Yeah.
Rude.
And who might those people be other than fucking Jack Barlow, fucking Tynan, and the third person who I really don't care enough about anymore. Yeah. Orin, that's his name.
I wish I had a nickname for that trio, but I don't. I'm trying to think, but I don't have any.
Can we just call them the Chads?
Yeah, the Chads.
The Chads. I mean...
So she essentially is able to make it there first, but she accidentally, like, basically breaks her ankle first.
She can't catch a break.
Well, she can catch a break. Just it breaking her ankle. She catches lots of breaks. So she approaches the golden dragon, is like, you need to go. She's like, get the hell out of here. You're gonna die. Go away. Can't you fly? Can you fly? Can you fly away? Please, go.
Leave. They're gonna kill you. Mm-hmm. But not only that, it's you have a moment where, like, Orin's looking at him like, is this, like, are we allowed to fucking kill these dragons? Like, they're gonna kill us if they find out that we killed it. And Jack's like, shut the fuck up and nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
This is a very stupid idea. And I want to know if someone put it into Dane's head. Or not Dane, sorry. Jack's head. Because, I don't know. It just doesn't, I don't know why. That's maybe a classified thing. But, like, I just don't understand why, like, it doesn't seem like a good idea to me to kill a dragon.
No, and I mean, he uses the argument of, it's for the best, it's undesirable, a certified freak, and you know feather tears are useless in combat. They refuse to fly. So I think they see it as a whole, kill the weak link so that nobody else can die type of deal.
But, like, maybe let the dragons kill their own weak link.
Maybe. Don't speak for the dragons. Maybe the dragons are better than you and you need to find your place,
Yeah.
Jack fucking Marlowe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
So, you know, whatever. They get into it. The golden dragon refuses to either run away, fly away, or use fire.
She has also nicknamed this gold dragon Goldie.
Yes.
And I find that just really funny.
Yes. So they decide that they're going to kill them both at the same time. And then all of a sudden she feels a prickle on her scalp. And Xaden arrives. But Xaden cannot do anything to intervene. He can only watch.
He can't do anything that intervenes in the sense of keeping Violet safe. Mm-hmm. He can't stop Jack from killing Sorrengail. He can't intervene in that sense. Because Violet's made up her mind, like, she's going to fight for this dragon. But he does intervene in the sense of saying, I would strongly recommend you rethink your actions. Mm-hmm. And he's not there by himself. He's there with Sagail. And Sagail does not seem happy.
Sagail is pissed. Sagail is very upset.
And then Jack even calls out, like, there's nothing you can do, right? Wing leader, like, you can't stop us. And Xaden goes, I'm not talking about me, dumbass. I'm talking about my dragon.
It's not me you should worry about today, Xaden responds, and Sagail tilts her head, nothing but menace in her eyes when I glance over. Yeah, not good. And it's been made very clear that you shouldn't mess with Sagail. Like, that she is not, she doesn't play by the rules. Yeah, she doesn't play by the rules. She is, like, not to be, like, messed with. That she is got a temper. But whatever.
And so we basically get into a battle. Like, Violet's like, you're really going to attack your squad mate. She's trying to appeal to Tynan. Tynan's like, squads don't mean shit today. Like, I want to bond a dragon. I want the best for the riders. She's turning around. She's arguing with the gold feather tail. She goes, can't you help me out? Like, use your claws, use something. Oh, you don't have claws. Those are fucking paws.
I thought that was the funniest thing ever.
Oh my god. Fucking hell, you don't have any claws.
It's like in the middle of like a comedy when like they start the like little battle scene and then they look, I'm like, you've gotta be kidding me. You have paws? You don't even have anything sharp? And then they start fighting. She uses her daggers and she starts throwing them, and Xaden's like, can you stop throwing your weapons? He's
honestly,
like, please hold on to them.
She slices in to Jack's shoulder. He's like, I can't move. He's clutching it. She throws out the great line of, that's the thing about having weak joints. You know exactly where to strike. Jack goes, kill her, and he runs away. He's like, y'all kill her. I am out of here. I'm going to go bond my dragon, get to the fight field, and get myself healed. Mm-hmm. And then Tynan's next to attack. She has fucking Orin dazed and confused. Mm-hmm. Xaden's just coaching her from the background. Mm-hmm. Behind you. To your left. Look out. Mm-hmm. Tynan's like, you can't interfere. And he goes, no, but I can narrate. Like, the fuck? I'm having fun. Mm-hmm. Sagail looks pissed. And then...
Yeah, and then to read the whole thing. So I barely have a moment to register my surprise that Xaden would ever save me for any reason when a gust of wind slams into my back and I stumble forward onto my destroyed ankle, flinging my arms out to keep my balance and grimacing at the shooting pain. Tynan's mouth hangs open and he staggers backward, his head tilting so far back that it's nearly perpendicular to his torso. Shade envelops us both, and he continues to back away. Chest heaving, my lungs desperate for air, I chance a look over my shoulder to see why Tynan is reacting, and my heart My heart lurches into my throat. Standing with the golden one tucked under his enormous scarred black wing is the biggest dragon I have ever seen in my life. The unbonded black dragon Professor Kaori showed us in class. I don't even come close to reaching its ankle. Woo! Ooh! And then he says, then she hears, step aside, Silver One. A deep gruff, definitely a male voice orders. I blink. Wait, what? Did he just speak to me? Yes, you. Move. There's zero room for argument in his tone.
And then the black dragon kills Tynan.
Yeah. Also, one of my favorite quotes, "You're bleeding. Stop it."
Yeah, and she, is definite in the fact of, I'm not going to kill... He wants her to also kill Orin, and she goes, no. That's a statement on his character. He goes, he would kill you if given the same chance. And Violet goes, well, that's a statement on his character, not mine. And then we get, "You're bleeding, stop it." I love this dragon.
And I like the way that Violet decides to argue with this huge-ass fucking dragon.
And then she stops herself.
Yeah, she's like, it's not that simple when you've been run through with a... And then she's like, oh my god, am I seriously arguing with a dragon? She's like, you know what? That's a great idea.
Sure thing, bud.
And then he goes, your hands are bound too. Do you bleed often? He's the dragon he's the best. He's the funniest, best character ever.
And then it hits her. She goes, "Oh shit, he's choosing me." Oh, and now I have to get on your back.
Get on your back? Have you seen you? Have you any idea how huge you are? I need a damned ladder to get up there. One does not live a century without being well aware of the space one takes up. Now get on.
But then she becomes immediately concerned for the Feathertail, saying, I can't just leave it. What if Orin wakes up or Jack comes back? The black dragon chops. The golden one bends down, flexing its legs, then launches into the sky. So it can fly.
Really?
And she's arguing. She's like, you don't want me. I'm not the shaggy. Get the fuck on my back now. Are you a writer or not? Yes.
Yeah. And he also has to, she can't get on him. He has to, bend down to, and it's a crazy thing because dragons do not make exceptions for humans, but he is doing that for her. So he's creating a ramp out of his leg so that she can get on without having to climb up a vertical,
And he does make the comment of he saw into her mind, her memories of the gauntlet, and he doesn't want her stabbing her.
I love that.
So,
I would rather not have a knife in my scales. My name is Ternanok, son of, I'm not going to say those, descended from the cunning I don't know, line. I'm not going to assume that you'll be able to remember that once we read the field, so Tern will do until I inevitably have to remind you. It's funny, he's so, impatient. He didn't want to bond. He's like, ugh. Here we go.
He had zero intentions of bonding today at all after his last rider died.
And so they launch up into the air and she falls.
Yep. But he catches her.
And says, you're making us look bad. Stop it.
Simple flight is hardly acrobatics. God, I love him so much.
And it's become very... They make it known in the beginning of the chapter that just because you get chosen, it doesn't mean that your dragon won't pick you up and then drop you and you will die right away. They don't have to catch you.
they are testing the strengths, and she is watching as other dragons just watch their riders die and go off and bond somebody new, or just say fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
But she makes a comment. He says, "Script harder with your knees. I can barely feel you back there." I'm trying. I push my knees in, and the muscles of my thighs tremble as he banks left, softer this time than last. His angle not quite as steep as he changes course in a wide arc, taking us back towards Beskiath. I'm just not as strong as the other riders. I know exactly who and what you are, Violet Soaringale. The words chosen. Who and what?
And I will tell all readers right now, we still don't know what this means.
No, we don't. But I have my theories.
Yeah. And people are still, like, thinking about what this means.
And then he says something that bonds them for a bit, because Violet goes, "I didn't think I would make it this far," and he says, "I didn't think I would either." So we have that in common.
Which
I'll bring Taryn, you. What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Well, I'll bring you back in, like, hold on, just like chapter 14, the very beginning. In the 6 centuries of recorded history of dragon and rider, there have been hundreds of known cases where a dragon simply cannot emotionally recover from the loss, by the way, Dana, of their bonded rider. Yeah. That this happens when the bond is particularly strong, and in 3 documented cases has even caused the untimely death of their dragon, which is not supposed to happen. If the dragon loses their rider, it's not supposed to cause death to the dragon.
A dragon without a rider is a tragedy. However, loss is a very fickle word, Bonnie.
I know. Loss
can mean several things.
I know. That's why I pulled it out there. I noticed it and I was like, oh, interesting. So I like he also says, "We're going to have to put on a show." She goes, awesome. And then he says, "You will not fall. I will not allow it. You will trust me." I just like Taryn was the final, he's like the opposite of everything Dain is. And like, yes. He's basically like, "No, we're going to just do this. You're going to be fine. I know exactly who you are. We're going to get this figured out." And then he's also like kind of a little bit impatient with her. Like, "You should be further along than this. Like, I know what you have going on, but you should have worked harder."
What the fuck happened to you? Like, I know exactly who and what you are, but what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And then so he's doing like all these crazy like spirals. He puts bands of air around her legs so she does not fall, using magic.
He is holding her in place. Her seat. Because she can't do it.
Yeah. And so there he's doing like spirals, whatever, and then she's thinking like, why, or she says, "Why did you choose me?" And he says, "Because you saved her." And then she says, "But dragons value strength and cunning and ferocity in riders. Please tell me more about what I should value." Sarcasm drips from his tone. So basically we learned that... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're finished first. Mine goes after.
Basically, we learned that that Taryn decided to bond because of her defending the golden dragon.
As we make it to the field, Taryn very quickly tells us we are the 71st bond to enter the fields. And he goes right in. "You're the smartest of your year, the most cunning. You defended the smallest with ferocity, and strength of courage is more important than physical strength, since you apparently needed to know before we land." Because he's like keeping them hovering a couple of inches or like feet above the field, telling her all of this before they're down. And she goes, "Wait, shit, I didn't speak those out loud. I thought them. He can read my thoughts." And he goes, See how smart you are? So much for privacy. You'll never be alone again. That sounds like a threat. And then she is told to kind of go and give her bonding his name, tell these rider who he is, because a dragon's full name is only for their rider to know, and it gets put into the record books. Every other name, like, we know that Tiny isn't his actual name. It's the name that Mira's allowed to share.
She also ends up saying to the golden dragon comes down and she goes, I'm glad you made it. Glad wasn't even the right word, but maybe you should fly off the next time someone suggests you try saving yourself. And she blinks. Maybe I was saving you. Her voice is higher and sweeter in my mind. Woo!
Didn't anyone tell you that you're not supposed to speak to humans who aren't your rider? Don't go getting yourself in trouble, Goldie. From what I hear, they're pretty strict about breaking rules. And then everyone's like just shocked that Taryn's here. They're like, holy shit, they're looking at this dragon, they're making room for this dragon. And, you know, Lilith, her mom, the general is there, Melgren is there. Everybody of importance other than like the king are there to see who is being bonded and what dragons are with who, right? So then you have, is that really Commandant Panchek starts, hovering at the edge of the dais, with more than a dozen other uniformed high-ranking officers all gaping. Don't say it, Mom hisses, her eyes on Taryn, not me. Not until she does. Because only a rider and the roll keeper know a dragon's full name, and she's not certain I'm really his. That's exactly what she's implying. Like, I'd be able to hijack Taryn. But also, Dragon Joyride is a color name that came to my mind reading this chapter.
That's funny.
That'd be so much fun.
That's a good one. Dragon Joyride.
Come on, man.
So then the roll keeper asks for her name, Violet Sorengale. She writes in the Book of Riders, nice to see that you made it. For the record, please tell me the name of the dragon who chose you. I lift my chin. Tarananok, I think is how you say it. Taryn says, pronunciation could use some work. And then
at least I remembered. At least I didn't let you fall to your death.
And then she hears in her head, Endarna Durum. It's very long.
Endarna Urum.
Endarna
for short.
And then she says, excuse me? And then the scribe says, Violet, are you all right? Tell her, the gold dragon insists. Taryn, what am I supposed to tell the roll keeper her name? Violet, the roll keeper repeats. Do you need a mender? I turn my back to the woman and clear my throat. I can't say it right.
Endarna Urum.
Endarna Urum. Her eyes fly wide. Both dragons, she squawks. I nod, and all hell breaks loose. I love that.
So, like, you don't typically bond two dragons, in case y'all didn't know. Yikes.
And so, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to read off the beginning of chapter 16.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Though this officer considers himself to be an expert on all matters dragonkind, there is a great deal we don't know about the ways dragons govern themselves. There is a clear hierarchy among the most powerful, and difference is paid to elders. But I have not been able to discern how it is they make laws for themselves, or at what point a dragon decided to bond only one rider rather than go for better odds with two. Colonel Keordy's Field Guide to Dragonkind. I think it's really fun that they point out why not, one dragon bond two riders, why not two dragons bond one rider.
Yeah. So the whole kind of, everyone kind of freaks out about this, and they're like, oh my god, what are we going to do? This is so unprecedented, blah, blah, blah. But we learned that really it's not up to any of the people, it's up to the dragons. And Taryn is kind of like, we're going to go figure this out. You go get medical care, and, we'll be back.
Stay with the wing leader.
stay with the and she goes,
sounds an
stay
awful
with the
lot
High
like
Lord.
stay with the High Lord.
But she also says, you must mean the section leader or whatever Dain is. And he
Still
goes, no,
sounds an awful lot like stay with the High Lord.
And he goes, no, I know what I said. I said wing leader. He goes, don't, and he's like, not Dain, Xaden.
Fuck Dain.
Yeah.
But let's quickly jump onto our dragon watch of who bonded what dragon in the first years. Mm-hmm. Starting, of course, with Jack fucking Barlow bonding an orange dragon.
Womp womp. And Rhiannon got a green.
Yeah, Rhiannon bonds a green dragon. Sawyer, do we see the other ones yet? Do we see what Sawyer bonds?
I don't know.
Yeah, everyone bonded. All the characters we care about bond a dragon.
Green. Riddick, brown. Sawyer, red.
Okay. And then Professor Curity kind of makes a comment. So their squad was down to 6. It's Violet, Rhiannon, Riddick, Sawyer, Trina, and Tynan. Those are the 6 members left in their original squad. And so Professor Curity kind of walks over and he goes, well, I haven't seen Trina or Tynan. And the first group, Riddick and them are like, yeah, Tina didn't make it. And Violet's the one to answer. Tynan won't be coming. To which we immediately get Taryn going, that's not your kill. Don't take credit for it. And that's like, I'm fucking not. Like, what?
Tell me why. Tell me why Dain is telling her that she has to pick between the 2 dragons. Tell me why.
Okay. So, obviously, Dain knows something we don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think at this point, he is already aware of Sigale and Taryn. And
he just doesn't want that.
I don't think he wants her connected to Sigale in any sense. Taryn also very big, very badass. We don't need Violet with a badass dragon because then she's now in the front lines. Whereas if she had bonded in Darna, and only in Darna, they're like, hey, well, this dragon obviously isn't suited for combat. So, like, you'll have to serve the time that, like, you have to serve in general, but you won't be front lines, and then you'll be, like, a professor. You are safe.
So, we learn, I believe in this chapter, we learn that Taryn is Sigale's mate.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that just means that Taryn and Sigale cannot spend very much time apart. So that means that her and Xaden will always be around each other. Always.
Well, we also learn that mates are like, they're fated mates. In the sense of, if Sigale dies, Taryn dies. If Taryn dies, Sigale dies.
If Taryn dies, Xaden dies.
Sigale dies, which means Xaden dies, because if your dragon dies, you die.
We also get the feeling, or we know this maybe already, or it's a big theme, that Taryn bonds very strong. So if he dies, or if Violet dies, he'll die.
He will die.
Then Sigale will die. Then Xaden will die. They will all die.
However, it is unclear, and this is still like a very big point, and I don't think this is a spoiler because she's already bonded to these dragons. The only unclear thing is if Sigale dies, Violet might still make it out being bonded to Indarna. Because she'll still have a bond. So it's still up in the air on...
I also don't know if Xaden died, if Sigale would die.
We don't know how strong their bond is, so I'm going to say as of right now, no.
Yeah.
think she still would be able to make it through because she's never made that comment of like, this is my last rider, as much as Taryn does.
Mm-hmm.
And even him saying like, I wasn't planning on Bonnie, like I didn't know this was going to happen today.
Mm-hmm.
However, if Andarna dies, do they all die? Yes. Because if Andarna dies,
yeah.
no,
Violet
because she'd
dies.
still have Taryn. But she'd
Dude,
still
I
have
don't know.
Taryn.
I don't know.
This is why we don't bond one rider with two
I don't know.
dragons.
It's confusing. So he says it has to be Andarna. She's too small to bear a rider. And immediately Violet is like, that hasn't been tested, even though it's very clear that she wouldn't be able to bear a rider. Like, it's like so clear that she, whatever. So, and then he tells her they're a mated pair, Taryn and Sigale, the strongest bonded pair in centuries. So, anyway, we go on about that. We learn about that.
There's also just like, why does Dain think that humans have the right to choose?
Right.
These humans mean nothing to the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure if this bond with Taryn wasn't like his end all be all bond, and there really was an issue with two dragons being bonded to one rider, they would have just killed her.
Yeah. Well, and
Solve the problem.
so she also realizes that Xaden's not going to kill her now because he can't.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, wow, like that was a big like lift off of her chest. And then she also realizes, so she says, hold on. It was reckless to step in or whatever for the because they're all arguing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I'm like all over the place. They're all arguing.
This is also where we learn like how it is Taryn came, right? So because he wasn't going to bond, and so Dain tells us, Taryn and Sigale, they're the strongest bonded pair in centuries. And so he starts like prodding her with all these questions, like Xaden was there. She goes, yeah, but he left after Taryn showed up. Xaden was there when you defended Andarna, and then Taryn just showed up. Yeah, that's what I said. Are you listening? Are your listening ears on, Dain? What are you getting at? Don't you see what happened? What Xaden's done? Please do tell me what you think I've done.
That's Xaden.
Xaden says, like, coming out of the shadows.
Yep.
You manipulated Threshing. Dain, that's paranoid. Xaden's not going to kill me. Is that official accusation? Did you step in? Did I what? Did I see her outnumbered and already wounded? Did I think her bravery was admirable as it was fucking reckless violence? But also, Sigale. Did I see her fight off 3 bigger cadets? Because the answer to all of those is yes, but you're asking the wrong question, Atos. What you should be asking is if Sigale saw it too. His mate told him. She's never been a fan of bullies, but don't mistake it as an act of kindness towards you. She's fond of the little dragon. Unfortunately, Taryn chose you all on his own. Fuck. My thoughts exactly. Sorengale is the last person on the continent I'd ever want to be chained to me. I didn't do this.
Mm-hmm. And even if I had, with that level of accusation, knowing it would have been what saved the woman you call best friend, would you really level that accusation?
Would you throw her under the bus? Would you care? And out of curiosity, would you have, let's say, bent those rules to save your precious little Violet in the field? No.
And she immediately
Dain says no.
Yeah, because she immediately is like, don't ask him that, because she knows that Dain is going to say no. And he ends up saying no. And that's kind of like the end of like the Dain situation.
Is it?
Well, it's about to be.
Doesn't he do something? Doesn't he
in
do something in this chapter?
like a page. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so hold on. So first, she gets to keep both dragons. Taryn says, as it should be, humans have no say in the laws of dragons. Then, my scalp prickles. I glance across the field at him, aka Xaden. Welcome to the family that knows no boundaries, no limits, and no end. My mother finishes, and the cheer resounds around the field. Riders, step forward. So now they're all riders, blah, blah, blah. All exciting. Yay, you'll like it. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, so then she gets her signet, which is basically or not a signet. It's a, well, yeah, it's a signet tattoo. It's
Her
just
marking.
she's not channeling yet. It's a tattoo from Taryn, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, Violet, Dain reaches me, his smile as wide as he cups his face. You keep both of them. I guess I did. And then he unlaces her top so that he can see. Holy shit, you have to see this. Tell the boy to move. Taryn shows her his vision, basically, of her back. So her marking, vision isn't mine. I'm looking at my own back, though, through Andarna's eyes. A back that has a glistening black relic of a black mid-flight of a dragon, a black dragon, mid-flight, stretching from shoulder to shoulder. In the center, a silhouette of a shimmering gold one. It's beautiful, I whisper. We know, says Andarna. And then you have to know how I feel about you. His thumb strokes over my cheek. This is Dain. His eyes searching for something, and then his mouth is on mine. His lips are soft, and the kiss is firm, and delight races up my spine. After years, Dain is finally kissing me. The thrill is gone in less than a heartbeat. There's no heat, no energy, no sharp slice of lust. Disappointment sours the moment, but not for Dain. He's all smiles as he pulls away. It's all over in an instant. It's everything I ever wanted except shit. I don't want it anymore. Ba-boom. Womp
He
womp.
fucking kissed her. Gross.
Ew. Cooties.
Ew.
Dain cooties. Yucky.
I want nothing more than to read that scene specifically from Xaden's point of view. And I think it exists.
Yeah. Maybe. I can't remember. Ew.
It's one of those random bonus chapters that I've never sought out.
Mm-hmm. So at the beginning of the next chapter, there is therefore only natural that the more powerful the dragon, the more powerful the signet of its rider manifests. One should beware of a stronger rider who bonds a smaller dragon, but even warier of the unbonded cadet who will stop at nothing to seize a chance to bond. Boom, boom.
And with that, we are now officially writers. We have our own private rooms.
And everyone's
taking
busy.
Full advantage.
Everyone's getting busy, except for Violet. She's like, what? Did I miss the memo that everyone was doing it last night? Damn it.
Not only that, but then she's no longer on breakfast duty. All the less desirable duties are being handed off to the unbonded, so Ryder's energy can be redirected for flight lessons, which means Violet can no longer poison her enemies. Womp womp.
Yeah, for sure. So she's gonna actually have to learn how to fight. Ruh-roh.
Ruh-roh, indeed. But also one more reason for the unbonded to hate the Riders.
Mm-hmm. I thought there's a little bit of a back and forth or whatever. I can't remember who it is. Riddick asks Rhiannon where her relic is, and she says somewhere that you'll never see.
I love it.
A little bit of back and forth there. And then all of a sudden they go to breakfast, and what is her name? Sits down with them.
Imogen.
Imogen sits down with them, and Rihanna says, "Why are you here?"
Well, not even that. It's like all of a sudden everyone is saying hi to Violet. They're being nice. They're making way for her. They're like, oh, you want to sit here? Like, absolutely, it's yours. We'll move. Sorry, Soaring Gale. And she's like, what the fuck is going on? And Imogen comes out and she sits down. She's like, yeah, it's because you're bonded to Taryn. The morning after Threshing is always a clusterfuck. Power balance shifts. And you, little Soaring Gale, are now about to be the most powerful rider in the quadrant. Anyone with common sense is going to be scared of you.
And they say that now second years feel like they can talk to first years because they've made it to being at least bonded, so it's less likely they're just going to die. So they're like, no, we're okay. We can be friends with you guys.
Yeah. And it was like, well, you weren't really interesting enough to sit with before.
Yeah, and then Taryn,
Now
they're
you
kind of
are.
like, they're weird about Imogen, and Imogen is getting more like food on Violet's plate because she's like, you're going to need,
You
protein
need to
because
eat.
I'm gonna train you, whatever. And then Taryn pops in her head and says, you can trust her.
Well,
Very
because so
interesting.
she Violet was hesitant to eat really anything because Oren was now on like breakfast duty. And he tried to kill her once. She's not convinced he wouldn't try to do it again, especially because she was poisoning everybody's food, so why wouldn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And Imogen's like, no, eat, eat, eat. And Taryn, I want to say it's just being that voice of reason of like, no, you're okay. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can eat this food. You can trust it.
Uh-huh. Well, and he specifically is saying, trust Imogen.
Trust her.
Mm-hmm.
Stop arguing with me and eat something.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, and
Do
then,
we? Oh, we don't. Because they start talking about signets as well, but we don't see Imogen's signet yet.
no.
We learn about Emery's, which is air manipulation, but they don't ask Imogen hers.
The last
I'm gonna
little,
put a little asterisk there.
yeah, the last little line of that like section is Xaden Ryerson is now in the business of keeping his mortal enemy alive. So all of Xaden's like people now have kind of like descended on Violet to keep her alive because if Violet dies, Xaden dies. Problem.
Yeah, rut-row.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to like the flight fields where we're doing our flight maneuvers. Taryn is like would be leading it if not for the professor.
Mm-hmm.
Because of Kiori, he's like, I guess I'll fly behind this other dragon.
Mm-hmm.
But 41 are unbounded.
That's a lot.
Unbonded, sorry.
That's a lot.
Well, there was 100 willing to bond, not including Taryn and Andarna, 102. Which means 41. There's what, at least 6 people that died?
Yeah. Here's the quote. So she says, like, he makes an accommodation for her to get on, and he says, there are accommodations for me. I've seen your memories. I'm not about to have you sticking daggers in my leg to climb up. Now let's go.
Yeah. And here is right before 92 riders and 41 unbounded.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what? 133
Mm-hmm.
that are still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Oh, this is on my, like, God's watch. So, she says something about the gods or whatever, and she goes, what? Dragons don't think we need the gods on our side? And then he says, dragons pay no heed to your puny gods. Interesting. I
Yeah.
don't have anything else, but other than that, it's just an interesting quote.
And then she goes in to complain of, you can't hold me here the entire time. He goes, watch me. unless you want to be scraped off the glacier below like Glenn's rider, and whoop, another one bites the dust.
And they're arguing and arguing and arguing. He goes, okay, fine. And he lets her go, and then she just falls out.
Have it where he, thank you, shit.
Oh my god, so funny.
But she does it. Stubborn silver human. Something else, which I don't know if we hear him call Endurna this in this chapter, but we do see it in this like set of chapters. He refers to Violet as Silver One, but he refers to Endurna as the Golden One.
Mm-hmm. And he never calls Violet ever by her name, which is an interesting
to the point
thing.
where she even says like, "You can call me Violet," and he goes, "Would you rather I call you Violence, like the wing leader?"
Yeah.
Don't fucking
He
tell me what to
only
do.
calls her Silver One. That's it. And even when she's in danger, I'm on my way, Silver One. Mm-hmm. Like he's, his only ever calls her Silver One. So it's interesting. Let's see. Then she starts sparring. Oh no. Yeah, to the sparring gym. Dain is like, what the hell? Let's not. Or no, wait, maybe not. No, not yet.
We get Dain coming up to see Violet, and Taryn going, "Tell him to mind his own fucking business. I will fucking eat him."
Somebody does need to eat him. Mm-hmm.
But then they talk about the kiss, and it never should have happened, according to Dain. But Dain is on this whole thought, like, this kiss shouldn't have happened. Like, we can't be together because I'm your superior officer. But, like, maybe once we're both graduated, if we both make it out of this alive, we could start something.
Ugh.
And then it's like, no.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you.
And then Imogen pops her head out of the thing and is like, let's go. Let's start training. And he's like, what the fuck?
If our squad leader is done with you, that is.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, Atos. So we don't get the full fuck you yet, but we're about to. Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
But, Violet asks Imogen, she goes, "You're only doing this because Xaden's making you, right?" Imogen looks her square in the eyes. She goes, "Rule number 1, he's Ryerson to you. First year. And you never get to question me about him, ever." Which, to Violet, means, oh, they're lovers.
Maybe not so much.
There's chemistry there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not jealous. Nope. That's not what I feel right now at all.
Nope. And then Terrence probably is sitting back in her mind, like, rolling his eyes, like, fucking humans.
I picture him laughing.
Mm-hmm. Should I get the wing later? That's for later. That's a joke for later.
Oh
So
my
funny.
goodness. Yes, you should.
So I don't. Now we go to the scribe quadrant, and this is very boring to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing that she does is that she's asking for the storybook that her dad gave her, and Jasenia, her friend who is deaf, is a scribe, and she cannot find it.
And that is something she doesn't, not that she can't find it, because she said she'll look, but she has no record of it. She's never heard of it before. Mm-hmm. And that's something very important to keep in mind later on, because the archives is supposed to have a copy of everything. Mm-hmm. All important tomes, everything like major is located in the archives. Mm-hmm. Hidden somewhere, some way, somehow. Mm-hmm. And so for Jasenia, who has studied so long to be a scribe and is a first-year scribe and should be, like, familiarizing herself with all these tomes, to be like, I've never heard of it, and it's called The Fables of the Baron, but to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, like, Wyvern, Venom, like, what? That's a little suspicious. That's a little weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We run into Professor Markham, who he's kind of just like, Violet, can you at least tell my stupid first years what they should be doing and why they should be the way they are? And I was like, okay, I guess. I mean, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
And yeah, it's just kind of meh.
Yeah. There's backstory. There's obviously, it's setting us up for later, right? But it's not that interesting.
So then we find out that Riddick, Riddick Sawyer gets his signet.
Signet.
Yeah, he can manipulate metals. He is a malgurist. Malagurist. I don't know, whatever.
Metalgurist? Whatever.
Yes, so he can manipulate metals, and he's worried that he's going to put his metal fork through his skull as he eats. Imogen says, "Stop scaring children. That hasn't happened in," she pauses to think, "decades." Or no, actually, no, sorry. This is about something else. They talk about if your signet doesn't manifest within like 6 months. 6 months? You might just explode.
After you start channeling magic in general, you have like 6 months or something until your signet itself needs to manifest. Or you might just like overload yourself and erupt.
Yeah.
Spontaneous human combustion.
Yeah. So then she says, "Stop scaring children." Imogen says that hasn't happened in, she pauses to think, decades. When we all stare at her, she rolls her eyes. "Look, the relic your dragon transferred onto you at Threshing is the conduit to let all magic into your body. If you don't manifest a signet and let it out, then after a bunch of months, bad things happen. The magic consumes you. Relax, it's not a hard deadline or something. It's just an average."
Just an average.
Okay, so...
But then we feel our scalp tingle again, and Xaden's watching her.
Mm-hmm.
Does she flip him off? No, she doesn't flip him off right away. That does start to happen. Oh. But yeah. So then they're off to flight classes again. Taryn's like, you only fell about a dozen times that trip.
But it sounds like also that Taryn is making things a lot more difficult on her. He's doing a lot more difficult maneuvers than the teacher is. He's trying to really like catch her up quickly, which is interesting. Why is he so, interested in making sure she's like caught up quickly to flight?
Do you feel like Taryn feels like he has an obligation to be like to showboat in a sense to all these other dragons, just given his status?
I think that he is resanding, as in Court of Nightmaresing that shit. But really, he actually needs to get her up to speed.
Okay.
Like, he's pretending to showboat.
Okay, because I know he does state, and maybe if I read, I can answer my own questions. Mm-hmm. I'm stupid sometimes, if y'all haven't figured this out. I love myself. He says, I'm training you for battle. He's teaching you parlor tricks. So, okay. And I feel like that says a lot as well about Taryn, where he's like, no, like, this is what's going to keep us alive and safe, versus, my brain, it very much, it's like, throw the baby into the deep end of the pool. Don't dip its feet in. Just take the baby and toss him in. He'll learn how to float. Please don't actually do that to anybody listening.
Yeah. This is the first also like head-to-head we get with Dain and Darren.
Yep.
Dain and Taryn. Yep. Taryn doesn't like Dain at all.
No.
Yeah. Let's see. He says,
Well,
hold on. He says, I know, and I could call you violence like the wing leader. You wouldn't dare. I narrow my eyes and move forward, checking where his chest begins to rise. And you know how much that ass annoys me. Annoys you? Taryn chuckles above me, sound like a chuffing cat. Is that what you call it when your heart rate? Don't even start with me.
yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then, like, he's growling because Dane's coming up. And she's like, oh, it's just Dane. Anger doesn't suit him. Because what is Dane? Dane comes out the back swinging. But before he does, we have Taryn go, tell him if he harms you, I'll scorch the ground where he stands. Oh, for fuck's sake, Taryn. Tell him, or I'll take it up with Kath, which is Dane's dragon. Taryn says if you harm me, he'll burn you. I'm not gonna harm you, Dane snaps. Word for word, Silver One. And you can tell, like, she's just kind of over it. She goes, fine. He actually said if you harm me, he'll scorch the ground where you stand. Better?
Mm-hmm.
I would rather die than harm you, and you know it. Not true. Not true, actually. You have said that you would let her die because of the codex. So, anyways,
I'm hungry. I think
Taryn
I'll
leaves.
partake in a flock of sheep.
He's gone.
Yeah.
I need to talk to you. So Dane comes at her from the ground swinging of, why didn't you tell me you couldn't keep your fucking seat? And she goes, I'm sorry. And oh, look, Taryn's back. He's back. He's ready to scorch the earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All this time, I've been letting Kiori teach you. And he's just, like, pissed. Like, surely I would know if my best friend fell every fucking day that she flew. It's not a secret. Everyone in our wing knows. I'm sorry you haven't been keeping up tabs on your squad. But trust me, Dane, everyone knows.
And he finds out 36 times. Now it's down to 1 dozen
Yeah.
or something. It was 36, now it's 1. He says first it was bending the rules to make it up the gauntlet, and yes, Amber lit into me for an hour about how you acted dishonorably.
Whew. And she goes, and he goes, like, well, why, what's wrong? What can you do? And she goes, do you want a list of my flaws? My thighs are too weak, but I'm building muscle. My hands can't grip the pommel, but they're getting stronger. It took weeks for my biceps to heal, so I'm training that one too. But you don't have to worry about me, Dane. Imogen's training me. Because Ryerson asked her to. Probably, but what the fuck does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
And
Why
then
wouldn't
goes,
he
well,
have
doesn't
her best...
have your best interests?
What? Keeping her alive is all that fucking matters.
Her best interest is staying alive. So shut the fuck up, Dane. Because unlike you, Xaden is trying to keep her alive.
And nobody has more of an interest in that than Xaden.
Exactly. And so then he goes in, he says, and then I thought you'd be fine if you survived Threshing. But even bonded to the strongest of them, he shakes his head. Go ahead and say it. My hands curl into fists, nails biting into my palms. I'm terrified you're not going to make it a graduation Vi. You know exactly how I feel about you. Whether or not I can do anything about it, I'm terrified. It's the last line that does me in. Laughter bubbles up through my throat and escapes. His eyes widen. This place cuts away the bullshit and the niceties, revealing whoever you are at your core. I repeat his words from the summer. Isn't that what you said to me? Is that who you really are at your core? Someone who's so enamored with rules that he doesn't know when to bend or break them for someone he cares about. Someone so focused on the least I'm capable of doing. He can't believe I can do so much more.
Mm-hmm.
So forgive me, I have had this highlighted. So forgive me, but you're about to be some of the bullshit that this place cuts away from me.
Yeah,
I move to the side and march past him through the tunnel, forcing air into my lungs. Other than the last year when he entered the Riders Squadron, I can't remember a time without Dain in my life. But I can't take his constant pessimism about my future anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yes.
Boom.
Thank God. Ugh, Dain is an ass. Yes, he is.
And then we have like one of the most interesting moments happen.
Yeah.
So she walks
We
into the courtyard
have-
where Xaden and Garrick are. And Rhiannon's like, "Are you okay?" She's like, "Dain is an ass." And then someone starts screaming. Make it stop.
A first year. Running through, screaming, holding his head. Make us up. And then he's pointing at people. You think I've lost it. How does he know? He shouldn't know. And it reads like somebody is going through a psychotic breakdown. And you? What the hell is wrong with him? Why is he screaming? Is Violet going to hate me? He turns and focuses on Dain. Is Violet going to hate me forever? Why can't she see I just want to keep her alive? How is he? He's reading my thoughts.
The impression is uncanny. He's also doing an impression of them as he's doing it.
Do something, I beg, Xaden. So then this is when Xaden looks at her and he says, if you value your secrets, clear your thoughts now. Oh, shit. And then Jeremiah, his gaze locks on Garrick. Damn it all to hell. He'll know about... The shadows around Jeremiah's feet snake up his legs in a heartbeat, winding around his chest until they covered his mouth in bands of black. Oh, look, Xaden-Violet did something. Why did Xaden wait until Garrick's thoughts were being read to do something? Huh.
He's an intrinsic. Someone shouts.
Yep. And then the professor bends down and snaps a neck. And we learn from Sawyer that is Professor Carr.
Because it is an illegal signet. You cannot. Why?
Unless you're Dain.
I guess the dragon doesn't know that it's gonna manifest that way. I guess.
No, because it's stated that the signets are a manifestation of more so of the writer, and it's something like the writer needs, right? So I guess Jeremiah just like needed to know what everybody was thinking all the time.
Yeah.
But then we're thrown into a dream. A dream with Violet's dad, where she asks, but what if I want to be a writer? Like Brennan and Mom.
These are really interesting. So some of these quotes that her dad says, you always have to check your sources. Remember that first-hand accounts are always more accurate, but you have to look deeper, Violet. You have to see who is telling the story. And then he also says, it's the scribes who have all the power in this world.
Yeah. Which, coming from a scribe, her father was a scribe. But during this, she has a voice telling her, wake before you die, now. And just a refresher for anybody who forgot, it's illegal to kill a cadet in their sleep, to kill a writer in their sleep. This is the only time she's supposed to be safe. However, even Mira told her, when you can, sleep in your corset.
So
Thank God for that.
Yeah, she wakes to find, what is it, 4 people?
I'm in my room in the writers. Yeah. 4 or 5, because one leaves right away.
Yeah. She sees a flash of a person leaving, but she saw who it was. And it was 5 and then 4, and now 4, I think. And so she goes to the window. She realizes she can't jump from there. Taryn's not close enough.
7. There are 7 cadets in my room. 4 are unbounded men. 3 are unbounded women. I gasp with recognition. Make that 2 as she runs for the door and slams it on the way out.
Okay.
She opened the door. There's no other explanation.
Yeah. So, then they fight. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I don't know. They fight.
There's a fight scene that happens. Taryn's kind of coaching her through it because he can't get there fast enough. She's trying to stay alive. Orin has her, like, at the throat, ready to basically unalive her. And then time stops.
And it's interesting because Andarna screams mine, which is a very interesting, I don't know. In fantasy, that's an interesting thing to say. Anyway, and then she says, go. Time freezes. Except her.
Everyone in the room is frozen in place. What the hell?
And Darna says, quick. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to this quote at the very beginning. I always feel like she puts these quotes, these important quotes, in exciting chapter breaks. So that you don't read it. In response to the Great War, dragons claimed the western lands and griffins the central ones, abandoning the barrens in the memory of General Dramher, who nearly destroyed the continent with his army. Our allies sailed home, and we began a period of peace and prosperity as the provinces of Navarre united for the first time behind the safety of our wards under the protection of the first bonded riders.
I need to mark this for the restricted section because something just clicked in my mind.
Okay.
That.
Got it.
Oh. 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 Okay.
Anyway,
Oh,
so
no,
she says,
wait, something... Yeah, go.
Andarna says, quick, I can't hold it. Like, so it's very clear that Andarna's doing this. And so she moves away. And then Xaden gets there, and shadows enter the room.
It's about damn time.
Yes, and Xaden goes,
You're all
fucking
dead.
Yeah. And then people
Tetra
freak out, oh my god,
died,
Xaden. Yeah. And then Xaden has, so it says, he never should have bonded her. You of all people have reason enough to want the weakling dead. We're just correcting a mistake. He says dragons don't make mistakes. So it's interesting because Xaden, they're right. Xaden could have just killed her like right away. And Taryn wouldn't have died. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But he didn't. I do think that Sigil would have been mad. But
there's also a big character development here, which is her inside thoughts of, as she's watching them like all die, whatever, she goes, I can't find it in my heart to pity them. Whereas before she would have probably been upset, she's not anymore. And he goes on a murderous rampage.
Can what? I have highlighted middle of the next page. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. I repeat the mantra in my head as Xaden wipes the blood from my dagger in the back of Orin's tunic. Yes, you're alive. Xaden steps over Orin's body and two others, retrieving my dagger from the blah, 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 blah. I didn't realize I said that out loud.
Yep. I think that happens one more time this chapter.
And then he
Come
says,
on,
"It's
violence,
he
pull
says
your
it's the
shit
shock."
together.
Yep, it's the shock. Are you hurt? Anyway, so Bodhi and what's his face, Garrick, clean up the bodies and get rid of them. I don't really know why
and
though.
I'm not sure, but this is also when she tells Xaden of her armor, because he goes, it must have been a dull sword, unless it has something to do with why you sleep in your leather vest. Trust him, Taryn demands. It's not that easy. It has to be for now.
Mm-hmm. He also says, never lie to me, when she says she's fine. She admits that it hurts. And so then he helps, like, check her ribs. They have some moments, I guess, like, more like, I don't know, partnership moment than anything else. Like, we're in this together. I'm not gonna, like, hurt you. I'm not, like, I don't hate you kind of thing. Just, we're here, right? She says I'm freakishly
and then he takes... yeah. And he takes her to the flight fields.
Yeah.
And he asks if he needs to carry her, or if she can walk. And he takes her to a way that, like, not many people know about. Like, it is a hidden way, basically, to this flight field. Holy shit, I hope you're not afraid of the dark. Yeah. But just in case. And then, like, again, she's in her head freaking out. This is fine. This is absolutely fine. And he then, like, has this mage light come out of nowhere. And they go to the flight field to see Andarna and Taryn and Sigale.
And Taryn says, I'm guessing the wing leader wants a word, which is interesting because, again, you're not supposed to speak to someone else's dragon. And by the way, Violet doesn't speak to Sigale nearly as much as Xaden speaks.
Xaden's about to speak to...
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So... She says, yep, ballsy. He's
I
like... I
also get the feeling that Taryn speaks to Xaden a lot.
I do too. But he says, it's none of your business what I choose or do not choose to channel to my rider. So
at this point, we learn that all four of them are mentally connected. Taryn can speak to both Xaden and Violet because of the bond of him and Sigale. Sigale can also speak to Violet. It's this whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. However, the only person that kind of gets left out of the loop is whenever Andarna is talking to Violet. Xaden is unaware of that.
Mm-hmm. So he's all confused about what happened when she stopped time, essentially. So and then Taryn says, "Do not dare to try and read me human, or you will regret it." I mean, it's all there.
I have thoughts.
Crazy. It's just crazy. It's all there. We can go back to it.
Yes and no. And that is something that we'll come back to, because there is something I, like, distinctly remember from Iron Flame. Which that line, yeah.
So, okay, so they say that the reason, and Darna explains, the reason they should not bond until they're fully grown is because they have, like, these, like, special powers when they're a feather tail. So we find out that she is kind of like a baby.
She's a young baby.
Yeah, she's a baby. And she has a signet that she can use, but she's not really, like, these signets could burn out Andarna and kill her if, like, it was used too much.
So, and it's not a full signet as much as it is a feather tail's, like, special ability. Mm-hmm. Because it will, and they say, like, it will change. Mm-hmm. So this whole thing, hold on. And Darna starts by saying, nature likes all things in balance. That's the first thing we're taught. Well, not the first thing. The first thing is that we shouldn't bond until we're full grown. Or maybe the first thing is where sheep are. I like goats better, though. Which, whatever. This is why feathertails don't bond. Taryn sighs. Let her explain, Sigale urges. Feathertails shouldn't bond because they can accidentally gift their power to humans. Dragons can't channel, not really, until we're big. But we're all born with something special. Like a signet, I relay the message. Like a signet I ask out loud so Xaden can hear. No, Sigale answers. A signet is a combination of your power with your own ability to channel. It reflects who you are at the core of your being. Which, again, a signet manifests what you deeply need. Mm-hmm. And Darna sits up, tilts her head proudly, but I gave my gift directly to you because I'm still a feathertail. You're still a feathertail? Yep, for another couple years probably. Oh gods, you're a hatchling. I am not. I'm 2. The hatchlings can't even fly. Mm-hmm. Which, as a preschool teacher, as a VPK teacher, that line, mm-hmm. I have basically heard that line every single day of my life. because that is she is a 4-year-old, basically.
And she glares up at
And not
Taryn.
a baby.
You let a juvenile bond, a juvenile trained for war. He goes, we mature at a much faster rate than humans, he argues, having the nerve to look affronted. And I'm not sure anyone lets Andarna do anything.
How much faster? She's 2. She'll be fully grown in a year or 2, but some are slower than others.
That's Sigale talking too.
And if I had thought she'd actually bond, I would have objected harder to her right of benefaction. And then Xaden's the one who looks upset.
Yeah. It also said in one of the earlier, beginning of the chapters that we don't know a lot about dragon politics and who allows who to do what. That's kind of important there, yeah.
But then Xaden looks offended, going, wait, is she yours? Do you guys have a baby that I don't know about? And she goes, don't be ridiculous. Do you think I'd let my offspring bond while still a feathertail? But then we learned that Andarna's an orphan. Her parents passed before hatching. Oh.
And
but
she
yeah,
has
feathertails
elders.
don't bond.
Yeah. She has elders, but they couldn't keep her off the threshing field.
Feathertails don't bond because their power is too unpredictable, unstable. Unpredictable, the same way you wouldn't hand a toddler your signet, would you, wing leader? Oh. But yeah, and we also learned that her channeling this power to Violet, it wore her out. It wears her out.
And so
it
she
takes
goes
a lot from her.
You can stop time, and she goes, and now we can stop it. So she's not supposed to use this much at all because she can really hurt Andarna and her what if she uses it. So she's really not supposed to use this. It's not just for your safety. Rare abilities when kept secret are your most valuable form of currency we possessed, but we got to keep it secret. And we're not telling anyone. So this is interesting, actually, this quote. That's why I think I highlighted it. Promise me you won't tell anyone about the time stopping, Xaden asks as we head back to the tunnel. It's not just for your safety. Rare abilities, when kept secret, are the most valuable form of currency we possess.
Yeah, and this is coming on the heels of her going, is Professor Carr going to kill me too? And he goes, no, because nobody's going to know. We're not going to tell anybody. And then she tells him, because he says, we need to figure out how unbonded cadets got into your room. There was a rider there, I tell him. Someone who ran away before you arrived. She must have unlocked it from the outside. Who? He halts. I shake my head. There's no way he'll believe me. I barely believe it myself. At some point, you and I are going to have to start trusting each other, Sorrengail. The rest of our lives depend on it. Fury swims in Xaden's eyes. Now tell me who. And now we're in chapter 20.
Which is one of my favorites. So they're reading the death roll for the day. They do this every single morning. And it's fairly, regular, right?
Fairly regular. And should we read off the top of the chapter first?
Yeah, you can. Mm-hmm.
Accusing a wing leader of wrongdoing is the most dangerous of all accusations. If you're right, then we failed as a quadrant to select the best wing leaders. If you're wrong, you're dead. My Time as a Cadet, a memoir by General Augustine Melgren.
So they decide that they're going to change a little bit of the sections just because there's the numbers have changed. So they move Liam, Maury, and a couple other people into her section, right?
Squad.
Yeah, squad. And she goes, I do not need a bodyguard. She knows exactly what he's doing. And that doesn't matter. That's what he's doing. It's what happens. It is what it is.
Well,
he says,
specifically because after they like combined and all, Xaden goes, hold on a minute. And they change like tit for tat. They change Vaughn Penley for Liam Murray. Zane's mouth snaps shut and he nods. I don't need a fucking bodyguard.
and she says, you're overstepping. He says, you haven't even begun to see overstepping. Any threat against you is a threat against me, and we've already established I have more important things to do than sleep on your floor. And then Heat flushes, and then he is not sleeping in my room. Of course not. He freaking smirks, and my traitor's stomach dips. So she likes him. I have moved him into the one next to yours. Wouldn't want to overstep. So now Liam is
And
in the
then
room next to hers.
And then, of course, we have Dain going, fucking mated dragons.
Yeah.
Because he's not happy either.
So, let's see. Do we have anything else before we get to... Okay. So Pancheck comes out, who I believe is kind of like, what, like, almost like the, like, what do you call him? The dean, kind of? Like the disciplinary... more so type person.
Yeah, and as Pencheck is coming out, Dan is trying to figure out what's happening. And he looks at Violet and he goes, is that what, what does he say? Sorry. Is that what Ryerson meant by last night? I nod. I didn't know. Why didn't you tell me? Because you wouldn't believe me even if I did. I'm fine later. And then we go, there's been a breach of the codex. Someone's in trouble.
Yeah. So, let's see. And then she, just like in the middle, she sighs, I miss sex. I miss good sex. This is the perfect timing for this. Anyway. Not really, but...
I love it. And then Dain, will you I'll shut the hell up. But anyway, so Xaden steps up and he is making his accusation. Early this morning, he begins, his deep voice carrying over the formation. A rider in my wing was brutally, illegally attacked in her sleep with the intent of murder by a group primarily composed of bonded. I don't know why I keep saying bound. As we all know, this is a violation of Article 3, Section 2 of the Dragon Riders Codex, and in addition to being dishonorable, it is a capital offense. I feel the weight of a dozen glances, but it's Xaden's I feel most of all. Having been alerted by my dragon, I interrupted the attack along with 2 other Fourth Wing riders. As it was a matter of life and death, I personally executed 6 of the would-be murderers, as witnessed by Flame Section Leader Garrick Travis and Tail Section Executive Officer Bodhi Duran. Both trays. How convenient. But the attack was orchestrated by a rider who fled before I arrived. A rider who had access to the map of where all first years are assigned to sleep, and that rider must be brought to swift justice. I call you to answer for your crime against Cadet Sorengale, Wing Leader Amber Mavis. What the hell? Dain bites out. She's a tier. She's a tree
Tier
2 Nadine. Tier 2 Nadine, or are you only biased against Mark ones? Amber's family stayed loyal to Navarre, so she wasn't forced to watch her parents executed and wasn't marked by a rebel relic, which I find interesting.
Amber would never. Dain shakes his head. A wing leader would never get up there and tell everyone he's lying by. And she says, but I'm not.
But he's not.
Oh, yeah, but he's not.
I was there, Dain. Wing leaders are beyond reproach. Why are you so quick to call our own wing leader a liar? My brows rise in a challenge, daring him to say what he's so careful to keep quiet. Behind him, Amber steps forward, separating herself from formation. I have committed no such crime. See? Put a stop to this right now, Violet. She was with them in my room. I say simply, shouting won't convince him. Nothing will. That's impossible. He lifts his hands as though ready to cut my face. Let me see. The shock of what he intends to do has me stumbling backwards. How have I forgotten that his signet allows him to see others' memories? But if I let him see my memory...
She forgot until just now.
Uh-huh.
That is ridiculous. A crazy oversight for her. And keep going.
Yeah. But if I let him see my memory of Amber's participation, it will also show him that I stopped time, and I can't let that happen. I shake my head and take another step back. Give me the memory, he orders. Indignation lifts my chin. Touch me without permission, and you'll spend the rest of your life regretting it. Wing leaders, we need a quorum, whatever. And Violet then goes with Taryn, and she goes, hey, show them my memory. Can you see my memories? I asked Taryn. Share them. Yes, a memory has never been shared outside of a mating bond. It's considered a violation. Xaden's up there fighting because I told him it was her. Help him. And gods, I admire him for it. I take a deep breath. Only what they need to see. Wanting and admiring, I'm so screwed. But then he shares it with the other dragons, who then share it with their riders. Dain pales, believe me now. I hurl it like the accusation it was. You're supposed to be my oldest friend, Dain, my best friend. There's a reason I didn't tell you. And then we find her guilty, and she gets burned alive. And Amber, notably, also had an orange dragon.
Yeah. And, yeah, it's sad. The dragon part is sad.
The dragon part's sad. I feel bad for her dragon.
Okay, so this is where we enter into the classified redacted section, and we're going to start with Orange Dragon. So if you have not read the sequel, please do not participate. This is your time to end and exit now. So Orange Dragons. Every bad character has an orange dragon. Every single one.
Everyone. And I want to say she did mention in an interview or something that, like, that's not the case. Everything will be fine. Because everyone's like, wait, Brennan has an orange dragon. Brennan has an orange dragon. However, my lovely week has led me to stumble onto something really fun about Brennan and Naolin.
Go for it.
I don't know if I sent you the TikTok or not, but specifically in regards to something that I might think we are seeing come January with Onyx Storm, is Brennan has a rune carved into his palms. It is the same rune that, and I need to reread Iron Flame to be like 100% certain, but according to this thing was like he has a rune carved in his palm as well. The same rune that Venin carved into Onyx in order to control their wyvern and create their wyvern.
I'm sorry, what?
And the fact that it's Onyx that's used to control and create them.
Yep.
And we're fixing to see an Onyx Storm.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's been playing in the back of my mind a lot recently.
Yep. I wonder if okay, so the guy who saved him and maybe is a Venin, I wonder if he carved it into his palm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That was 100% what I'm getting at.
That's what you're getting at? Okay.
Carving it in to, like, save him, to channel that power into it. Because it's, like, I'm assuming that it's, like, a creation rune. And then what was sticking out to me when you were reading that last chapter intro paragraph, the barren lands, or the barren was left abandoned. The Book of Fables, or the Fables of the Barren.
Ah.
There's no griffins. There's no griffins there, and there's no dragons there for them to get magic through, which means all what's left, the grounds.
I was wondering
Hello.
who that general was, too, that they mentioned, because I've never heard of that person.
Yeah.
So I was confused about that, too. I was like, who's that? I was like, this is history. This is way back history that we've never heard of. So I was like, this is interesting that this is in here. So chapter or page 150, it mentions General Sorengale's bloodshot eyes. Interesting.
Okay. So we know that a key characteristic for someone turning Venom is having bloodshot eyes. All of a sudden, she comes home with bloodshot eyes
From a battle.
from a battle. Now, again, we are in the classified section. I'm just repeating that for anybody who's kept listening for some reason. We also learned that in Iron Flame, they have these potions that people are able to take in order to keep them from using their signets from channeling powers. Does that also suppress your venom power? And something that I am keeping an eye on through this reread, and this is something that I'm on the watch for only for the classified section, is we find out that obviously Jack fucking Barlow turned into Venom, and I want to say he stated that he started channeling from the power shortly after Threshing. So I am kind of keeping an eye on to how his character is described, and if we see any instances of him having those bloodshot eyes, or of him having something that stands out from usual in regards to his powers that could lead you down that, oh shit, he really is Venom now.
I'm feeling like the orange dragons are just on the wrong side of that they're just on the Venom side. As a species.
I think they're just chaotic. Chaotic evil. Chaotic neutral. I know Solus is 100% chaotic evil.
Why did Jack want to kill Endarna, really? Did somebody instruct him to kill Endarna? I just don't understand.
I truly believe that Jack feels mightier than thou, and that he is above everyone else, and he is making the best call. I think he believes he's above dragons and dragon law. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I want to kill this dragon, I will kill this dragon. I don't think it's smart, but Jack Barlow's not smart.
That's true. I wrote down something that I thought was interesting that I didn't want to discuss right in the thing because I thought it would give something away. Okay, so the timeline of signets, it has to be around 6 months, right?
Uh-huh.
So when is 6 months for her to manifest her second signet?
Well...
And would that be the same, would it still, burn her out in the same way if it didn't manifest?
So she can't start manifesting her second signet until Endarna is an adolescent.
Okay. Got it.
So that hasn't started until Iron Flame.
Got it.
Because they can't, baby hatchlings can't do much yet.
Yep.
However, I want to say that Rebecca also stated in interviews that Violet's signet has already manifested in Iron Flame.
Yeah, it for sure
It's just not outwardly stated.
It for sure is Truesayer. However, I'm frustrated about the fact that Xaden knows what it is and didn't tell her.
I think he has, but she's just not catching on to it.
I know, but why not just
I think
tell
he has
her,
told
tell
her. Because that takes all the fun away.
Because then she would figure out what his is, I guess. You know what I mean? Or that he has
Speaking of Xaden,
Mm-hmm.
Taryn's line, don't try to read me.
Yeah.
So, again, knowing what we know that Xaden is an insignet as well. However, Taryn didn't know. Taryn didn't know until Xaden told Violet, because I remember Taryn freaking out about it. that's the one secret Sigil kept from him.
Right. Interesting.
So was it an oversight on her part? Was it like a misconception, or is Taryn referring to something else in that moment? Because he was like taken aback when they found out about this.
Right, you're right.
In whatchamacallit, in Iron Flame.
Interesting. Any other redacted thoughts? Those are all the ones I wrote down.
Any other redacted thoughts? I think those are all my main ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else are you currently reading right now? For funsies.
So currently, for funsies, we are entering the lovely month of October. Or not really, we're in September, but the fall and the October vibes, the Halloween vibes, which means I like to dive into the spooky side of things. So, our friend Rachel has convinced me to read We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kilwer, I think is how it's pronounced.
I don't think I
Which
know
has
that.
been a very interesting read so far. It's more on those like thriller sides of things, a little spooky, a little mindfucky. Audio wise, because I like to listen to audiobooks in the car, I started listening to Pucking Around.
Oh.
Did I pick Pucking Around because it takes place in Jacksonville and that I live in Florida? Maybe.
I will say that I DNF'd it.
Did you?
I did. But I didn't. I had the intention of coming back, but I just didn't. I don't know. It's one of those that I think it just was too long, and I think it just got to be too much for me. But it was good. It was fine. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's fun so far for where I am, but I'm also just like at the very beginning of it. I just finished a couple of weeks ago. I just finished, what is it called? Hold on. With the Audible app and all, I'll listen to like Lily Chu books because she does Audible originals. So I just finished Drop Dead, which was really funny.
Which, by the way, you
It's
are
about-
in for it for audio listening to Pucking Around. Woo!
I really am in for it. This is what I listen to in the car on my way to work.
Keep the volume down.
We keep the volume down regardless. I finished Drop Dead, which was about some reporters, one of which was a obituary reporter, and then I've also finished The Bookworm Crush, which I have not had a book where I was smiling like a schoolgirl and kicking my feet in a hot minute, and that was The Bookworm Crush for me. What about you?
I am reading Quicksilver. I don't remember the author right now. But it's fantasy. It's actually really interesting because I think I described it to you. It's like Tatooine mixed with Fae, but not mixed. It's like, all of a sudden she's like on Tatooine and then she passes into a Fae world. It's very weird. It's very weird. But it's good so far. And then I actually really think that this month needs to be the month that I finally finish the Throne of Glass series. I audio listened to it, and I think I really need... The high schoolers at work just went back to school this week, so I have time to listen to audiobooks at work now. And so I think it's time for me to finally finish it, and I am going to probably be destroyed by it because everyone is destroyed by it, so that's going to be fun.
I regret not getting Throne of Glass books when they were on sale recently at Walmart, because the entire box set went on sale for like $40. And I was just a little bit too slow and missed out, and they sold out, but it's fine. Everything's fine.
Hey, I have
so
the
many
box
other
set.
books I need to finish reading.
I have the box set. I will send it to you one at a time if you would like. I have it.
I have to get through some of my other physical TBRs.
I haven't even opened the box set. I have listened to the entire thing. I bought them all on audio.
This is when we just start like our traveling Sisterhood of the Traveling box set.
Yes. I should have known better. I like to listen to SJM more than I like to read SJM.
I'll probably have to listen to the first one because that's how I got through Court Akatar.
And then a little bit of a benefit for you guys of listening to our podcast, I'm going to announce here a week before I do anywhere else that our October book is going to be From Blood and Ash by JLA. We're going to go back to JLA for a month, which, yay, I'm very excited about. It's just the best thing I could think of for October.
So what you're telling me is the fact that I started reading it and then paused it really benefited me because we're going to be reading it.
Yeah, we're going to be reading it. From Blood and Ash, yes. And it's one of my favorites, actually, so I'm excited about it. And, yeah. So that's all I got. So you got anything fun or exciting? Do the Fable thing. We'll post it. I'll try to post it in the link in the YouTube for sure. I'll try to remember to post it. Maybe I'll do it in the RSS feed, and hopefully it'll transfer through to all the podcasts as well. I'll try to do that. We'll see.
Okay. I'm just really excited. I cannot wait to start reading everybody's thoughts and theories on what's going on in this book. I can't wait to... It's going to have to be a thing where we maybe turn, like, the recap section or whatever it is at the bottom of Fable into classified. Throw in all your theories here. Enter at your own risk.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea.
I can't wait. Obviously, ending off on this book, I probably will jump into Iron Flame come like November, December to get me ready for Onyx Storm in January.
Ta-da! One of our customers and a friend of mine from my actual personal life messaged me and said that she read both books in 48 hours.
I relate to that statement actually, because I feel like I audio listened to Fourth Wing. You were there on the journey with me because I was texting you nonstop. Mm-hmm. I immediately drove to my sister's house, picked up her copy of Iron Flame, read it in like 2 days and handed it back to her. Mm-hmm. The best part of all in my journey is I found out that my boss at work also is really big into like Fourth Wing and all, because I was in like our tech closet doing something, listening to it. She goes, "What are you listening to?" So then when I finished Iron Flame, I handed it off to her and I said, "Boss, I love you. Please, I am here for you if you need anything. Feel free to damage my book if you need to throw it against a wall," because I did.
Love that.
Yikes.
I think it was one of my employees ripped one of my books and I was like, it's okay.
That's fine.
It's like books are meant to be
life sometimes.
read. It's okay. It's like, they're just like, I'll buy you a new one. I'm like, it's fine. Just tape it. No big deal.
It's fine. It'll live. Sometimes you have to throw... I sent Bonnie a picture of a book that I threw across the room and flipped it off. Sometimes you have to do it.
At least it's not your phone. That's what's good about physical books.
I've done that too.
That's what's good about physical books and not Kindles, is you can toss them. All right,
yeah,
so we will see you next week with the third installment. Peace out.
Peace out.